Hello and welcome back once again to Yellow Card TCG. We are here in Game 4 of the VPL Finals of 2024. We see at the time of recording, Owl Coop is currently 2-1 against the Dinobozos, and here we have got Kai, also known as Shinobu.Kocho, for the Owl Coop versus TSLCobra, also known as Ben, for the Dinobozos. Joining me for this episode is none other than Chang.
Hello, hello. My name is Chang. You can find me on Twitter and Discord as May Chang. I mostly post takes and deck lists, and sometimes I'll do a funny meme edit here and there.
There we go. So, let me also start the Twitch live prediction because this is being live, even though everyone else is watching this much later. Say hello to YouTube chat.
Hey, I've got to get the Twitch open so I can see what chat is saying.
Giving them a minute to get their predictions in. So while that's happening, let me tell you about the matchup. So Kai is on Shiranui, and Cobra is on Prison.
Really? Ooh, that's interesting. Didn't expect. I've definitely seen a lot of Shinobu's being played in finals for obvious reasons, but Prison's an interesting choice.
Oh
I
wait,
think Prison is
Prison.
particularly
Sorry,
going
I
to.
actually had them the wrong way around. So actually, it should be like that because yeah, Dinobozos playing Prison on the left, and Owl playing Shiranui on the right. My apologies. But yeah, that's a matchup we don't normally see. Like obviously, Prison has become a lot stronger with the release of DZ02 and the restander. But yeah, it's one of those ones where like even now, post restriction, Shiranui is probably still one of the strongest decks in the game. Still,
Oh, absolutely.
so can Prison like really fight it well enough? Like
There is
what do you
one
make of this
aspect.
matchup?
There is one aspect of Prison that makes it really hard for Shiranui, and it is that Prison removes Soul on the Grade 4 ride.
So
So
Shiranui has trouble restanding. Yeah.
yeah, because most Shiranui builds are built to have precisely enough Soul to be able to double restand every turn, and not really much more Soul after that. So if the Prison player is able to get one or two pure lights in, then the Shiranui player is essentially left with no Soul. And even without the pure light being locked out of using soul at all, because you need to conserve the soul for restands, and not being able to use that soul to bail out in prisons also makes it really hard because you're limited to only being able to use counterblast for bailing out.
Yep. Which of course
Like,
Shiranui does have counterblast in spades, but we just saw there Galactus soul charging heal and OT for Prison, which is pretty rough.
yeah, definitely having that OT out of out of private knowledge just makes it a lot harder for the rest of the game because that looming danger is never going to come up for the entire game at this point for the newbie player, which is definitely going to be a little makes things a little less stressful on their part.
Yeah. I mean, it's also difficult as well because you want to go second to deny Stride decks the ability to draw that extra card, but Prison also wants to go first to be able to set the Prison on turn one. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario for Prison there. And one of the quote unquote weaknesses of Shiranui, despite getting Ford and Revertis in Festival Collection, is the fact that it's still a Stride deck, which means its early game is still a little bit weaker than you would expect. And Prison, as far as the other decks go in the current format, doesn't have as much tools to rush and punish in the early game as others. In fact, Prison is virtually almost a Stride deck in and of itself, given how it wants to play the long, grindy late game.
Mhm. There is Prison does have a couple of rush tools, specifically Rifle Royer, but that means like you must draw the Rifle Royer if you want to do a lot of relevant pressure early. Which
I
makes it a
think
little
we
tricky.
haven't seen it. Like we see the Muna coming in there. Muna gaining resist does kind of help, but so that your opponent can't dominate it. But it's very rare. Like if you're playing Prison and Muna's the only thing on your board, I think you're losing in that scenario.
It also you also need it needs to be Muna, and there has to be nothing but Munas in your drop zone, or else the Genkai will be able to call a dominate target, which is also very annoying.
Exactly. The crit coming in there for Cobra does help even out the damage a little bit, but it also gives Kai the position to just go forward Revertis and off to the races.
There is also a little funny play that I believe the newbie player here can do, whereas the Esperidia's in prison, so you can bail it out
Straight away,
during
oh,
the
that is funny.
turn two. Yeah, and then I believe that Esperidia is active during the turn too as well. So that's
They would also
more
keep
impact.
it would also keep Shiranui's soul light. Obviously, that he won't be able to restand, but it means that they're not hit as hard by the pure light.
Yep.
So forward reverses is going to soul charge a Mukuro there.
Here
Uh,
the turn one Shenri does come in here because that's a very perfect target for the forward and reverse call here. I am curious whether he's going to go for the empty out soul line here to make sure that pure light doesn't get the full the full 6 imprisons, or if he's going to try to have enough soul to be able to pressure with the restand after the imprison happens.
it's also worth mentioning that he Soul Blast 1 to 3, which he is going to push, go for. Soul Blast 1 for the Esperidia leaves him on 1 soul. Right up to grade 3 leaves him on 2 soul. Genkai comes out, soul charges itself, so 2 soul again. You have to assume that when Cobra rides up to grade 3, he's going to activate Seraph's effect to counterblast 1 to imprison 2 things, imprisoning the Esperidia and the Ford Revertis. That gives Kai exactly 2 soul to then free the Esperidia and then restand again as well. So it is definitely looking good for Kai here. No defensive as well means that this Ford Revertis does go unpunished. There's the defensive, so the Vanguard column is now 1 to pass.
One to pass, but unfortunately that Esperidia column is 16k and will still require a 10k guard even with the defensive, which is really rough here.
I think it's more than that, isn't it?
13 plus 13 to be
Oh,
26,
yeah,
yeah.
26, yeah. No trigger, so it is guardable. I think he needs 5 more, doesn't he?
I'm not sure if
Because it's
Cuff Spring
20.
gains shield or
Spring definitely does not gain shield. So I think he's 5k short, but I'm not sure how much that comes
not.
up. Yeah. Okay, it's fine. He had a trigger. He can guard with a trigger, discard Custering for ride deck.
Yeah.
We'll just assume he didn't top deck that crit. But yeah, it's also worth mentioning there, like, Cobra's gone through 4 triggers now already. Like the crit, 2 crits and damage, heal, 5 triggers, heal, OT, and soul.
Very thin here, especially, but you really don't want to be at a lot of triggers out of deck, especially when you're at a damage deficit. That's definitely a rough place to be. The
Mm-hmm.
damage deficit is always something where you'd prefer to be being able to get the triggers to equalize that difference. We'll see what happens though. Prison player is able to does see the aqua. I believe that's is that aqua or citrus. I can't tell with the glare,
Citrus.
but
It's the restander. Yeah.
that does get the 3 bind for the triple drive at the very least. So hand will stay a little healthy.
He's got the Rifle
Rifle
Warrior on
Royer.
top. So that is very useful.
Will Rifle Royer see another Luna? Let's find out.
Yeah, Prison is definitely one of those decks where it's only received like it received just Rifle in set 13, and then it received just Citrus in DZ2. But those 2 cards alone have really, really pushed the deck to new heights, which I think is impressive. We're not going to find the Moona, we're just going to find Cuff Spring. But that gets into 3 without spending Counterblast for Seraph herself, which is great.
I'm not sure that prison really cares for its counterblast too much, but I suppose just for more, I believe citrus costs a counterblast, correct?
To restand, yes.
Mhm.
Of course, the
Very
downside
thankfully.
for Shiranui is that if you imprison Shenris, Shiranui can just counterblast 1, get them out again, and then Shenri refunds whatever soul you were going to use in the first place.
Mhm. New player will need to use an order to be able to turn it on at this point, but the Angel Ladder might be in hand. You never know.
Yeah,
I do
Angel
think
Ladder
the
we primarily see being used like for Nuis to counter each other, but also Angel Ladder is also very relevant against Prison.
yep, gets rid of 2 imprisons on board, and if you're empty on soul, 2 imprisons out of soul. So that makes the pure light only remove 2 from hand. I believe it's hand. 2 cancel.
Yeah, 2 hand, 2 rare, 2 soul.
Yep. So it'll just be the 2 hand, which does make it a lot harder to get that 10 Imprison sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. I was going to go with the Vanguard here. It's fairly large with the triple drive on your opponent's grade 2. So if there was ever a time to start clawing back some pressure, this would be it. But there's against Shiruni, there's only so much momentum you can gain knowing that they're about to go into their first ride Magen Tenbu.
I believe that Aqua's battle door condition is up, so that is another annoying thing to guard. Even if you guard the Vanguard swing, the crits might go to the Aqua, which will be pretty annoying to guard unless you have 2 triggers.
Yes, because it's going to
Nui's
be at
hand,
least 18, maybe 28 with a trigger.
Nui's hand early game tends to be a little more on the fragile side, which makes it a little prone to getting rushed. So I'm curious to see what. Ooh, PG comes down here. Okay.
Really early PG is quite surprising. I was gonna say, like, you're ahead on damage. There's an argument to no guarding this. Security upgrader coming in is huge. Second
No
rifle.
trigger check. That's very rough for the prison player, especially with a hand that's only at 6.
I think that actually gives Shino the ability to just no guard both rear guard swings now.
There's an argument for the prison player to swing into the Esperidia here just to
Oh yeah,
maybe
that
hold off on either get rid of the Esperidia so that it's no longer a resource that's available anymore, and also to deny counterblast in the case that she really wants to do a double Genkai turn.
yeah. It's also
Double Gen
very relevant.
double Genkai with 2 Furais definitely kills here. So yeah, there we go. We see the swing into rear.
And I assume Aqua's guard restrict works when it's attacking a rear guard as well. So you'd be
Makes
dropping
sense.
2 5k shields just to keep that Esperidia alive. And then this Citrus is what, 2033, which we are going to take.
That is the second Oboro out, so that does mean no Mukuro accessible here, but I do believe that Mukuro
Unless
would
they're
be hard to do
running
with.
Katsuri Gitsune.
That's very true.
Yeah, I do
Mukuro's
like.
probably
It is
hard to
interesting
do
how
that,
like
though.
lists are flexible as well because how many of the grade 1 energy cycler are you running? How many grade 2 cycler are you running? How many like this and that are you running? Like some lists play 4 Esperidia, some lists play only 1 or 2. Are you running Forbidol or um, 8 Angel Ladder? Like there's a lot of variability. That's a second PG coming goes away as well for Shiranui, which is
Yeah,
so.
very very rough into prison. You want to have those PGs for the 10 in
Mhm.
prison.
The
Sure.
prison seeing a lot of things come around here. We're gonna see if Genkai wants to call anything. We're gonna force a call a trigger, probably, just to get pieces off the board.
Yep.
I think if you call a crit out, you probably just get rid of the cuff spring, is what I expect.
It's a very funny thing when the opponent has a full field and then the overcall is actually a retire, which is a very amusing thing. Doesn't come out very often, but it is very.
Oh, I just noticed as well. I think it's worth mentioning here that Prison has seen 2 of their pure lights already. They're both in the drop zone. I mean, security upgraded does ride from drops. So it's not the end of the world. It just means that it's going to be hard for them to continuously recycle those pure lights to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, if they don't have security upgraders, then they're going to be sort of stuck out of luck. We've seen one security upgrader in hand already. We'll see if there's gonna, if the game lasts that long, we'll see if the second security upgrader becomes available.
So we're going to stride and dominate. So I think you definitely save the Mag and Tenbu dominate for the Citrus because you want to get that Resander off the board. So probably the Aqua just into Vanguard here. We're going to take it. Hits the defensive. That's huge.
Looks like this game will be going to turn 4.
And Shiryu there probably doesn't want to commit the counterblast for Genkai just for risk of starving themselves.
You definitely may need the counterblast to be able to set up a board on the second stride here. So I think it's especially after the defensive is checked, probably. Ooh, Angel Ladder comes down.
It's a really well-timed Angel out of there. So
Yep.
it means at most Pure Light will be ripping out 4 cards, not instead of the usual 6.
Yep. Makes cards like it's just so much safer to be able to commit a full board here, so you don't get board wiped by the pure light and then the rifle warrior.
Of course, it does give you that extra soul for pure light to steal.
Mm-hmm. I think the best line to do here would be to empty out soul to reduce to call out a full board with the soul that's there,
Mm-hmm.
and then leave an empty soul for pure light to be able to remove the 2 from hand. Then save that counter blast for the follow up turn. If there's effect crits in the Nui deck right now, then those will definitely be helpful for the post pure light stride turns. Because those are another way to get soul during the battle phase.
Yeah. So we're going to free the Ford and draw off the Mooner. Ford only works when called from hand, so it's just going to be a 10k vanilla here. Oh no, it looks like it's going to be the Shenri instead. Yeah, the question is whether or not Nui has at least one restander in hand. That's kind of what we're looking for, right?
Mm.
Because that Shenri, like, as we mentioned before, Soul Blast 1 to free the Shenri. The Shenri will pay for itself because we have ladder active.
Mm-hmm.
So have access to 4 soul there. So even if we had double restander, we leave ourselves with 2 soul for pure light to steal, which is kind of rough. So the
Does
Magen
use the
Tenbu is
CP
going to go
for
in.
the Genkai there.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh, he needs to counter blast for the Genkai so that the grade 2 hits over the defensive. That's what it is.
Yep.
Because it would have been just 19 on its own. So the 5k from Genkai makes it 24.
Yep.
And pushing prison to 5 is really beneficial.
Yeah,
because it makes your second stride Mukuro effectively lethal.
Mm-hmm. Furai comes down. If a second Furai comes down, I think it traps here.
Gaining the boost on the Genkai is also huge for, like, again, having some heavy counter pressure this turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just
Genkai's
gonna.
a very nice user for Esperidia, especially because Esperidia's 13k base instead of 10k base, so that little extra 2k compared to a different grade 1 shows Esperidia just up a little bit.
Yeah.
No second Furai.
We're just gonna free the Ford, which I think is okay as well. Just keeping prison low is good. You know that at least 4 cards are going into prison next turn, so they'll go up to 6, which is already going to be plus 15k to the front row. They don't have the full crit, but plus 15k is still pretty rough when you're looking at 4 attacks, provided you don't win the game this turn.
Put the Furai first.
I think Furai first is fine if you intend on boosting.
Nope, that's fine. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I was going to restand the Furai. Shenris are active as well, which is nice.
This sequence does also play out of that heal a little better too, because that it forces a guard on the first swing instead of just taking a large swing on the first one to be able to see if a heal comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that line of play was very good.
Oh, there's the Forbidol being discarded for PG. Front is huge.
Trigger, that's brutal.
So nothing else. The front does make this a little bit tougher. Like, basically negates the defensive that Prison just got.
Yep.
So that's asking. That column's asking for 25. This column's asking for 33. No.
The corner vertical column is 35.
It is 33. Yeah. Because Shenri doesn't get the 5, but the Crest 5 applies. No, more than that actually. 43 because of the front.
No, Shenri applied because of the Angel Ladder, so be 13 boosting. 10 Furai, 20, 25, 35, 48 on that column, and then the other column's 35.
Yeah. No, it should only be 43, I think. Oh no, right, yeah, the extra 5k from Shenri for the ladder. Yes, you're right. So that's a lot of shield. So we're actually going to see the second PG coming down. Ditching the security upgrader. That is ballsy. That's either desperate or ballsy.
Yep. Looks like the prison player is definitely going to be trying to bank on that. Um,
And then
definitely trying to bank
35.
banking on this upcoming turn. I do think with the how the board state is, I don't think the second turn is going to be survived. So
I don't think so either.
getting
Start
rid
the
of
turn
that
with only
extra
2 cards in hand. They
that
should
crit
remember
should
that that crit, yeah,
die.
should be dying. So 3 cards after draw for turn. Do we have upgrader? Do we have something to ride? Do we have anything to do? There's this upgrader, so we did have it.
It will be rough for the prison player to kill from 3 here because that's one attack that can be taken here, even with the 2 crit.
Yeah.
Even if assuming that they'll manage to get up to 10 in prison with such a small hand size.
I mean, the Pure Light Ride will put them up to 7. Rifle will put them up to 8. 2 is not impossible as long as those cards aren't triggers. You know, they just need to be like Cuff Spring and another citrus or something.
Did they already bind one for imprison one from drop for the upgrader?
Yes.
Okay. If citrus gets hit off the top, that's very good here.
And 2 from hand. So that is 7 total. Yeah.
Yep.
I really hope that crit being a 5k booster won't actually make a difference.
Hopefully not.
But yeah,
It's
no.
very hard that Royer's not going to be able to imprison one here.
Does it have
Looking at the
to?
last.
Does it have to imprison? Oh right, yeah. But does it have to imprison to top 5?
I don't believe so. Citrus comes down. That is a potentially a draw one that might get another imprison here. So it goes up to 8 here. We can maybe 2 more can happen.
Yeah, I think he like the only things that don't imprison from board is either needs to be like another citrus or like a cuff spring or something along those lines. And I don't think we have it. I think we're just gonna stop on 20k front row.
Oh. Triple drive in a dream, right?
4 attacks. Your opponent can take at least 2 of them. They can definitely take the first citrus because it's only going to be 1 damage. And you're probably banking, given how many cards they've drawn, that they probably have the Oboro to go into the Mukuro with. So it's not even like you can damage deny them out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Shirley wants to guard this, they probably could safely guard it.
We'll see what happens. Micro can be a little hard to argue for because of the 1 soul here, but if there are soul charges in hand, like with the effect crits, it's doable. 2 Oboros out. For most standard lists only play a 2 Oboro, so it telegraphs that it might be a little hard for them to go into the Micro, so maybe damage denial is okay. But even then, with the Furai on board right there, it's a little hard.
I mean, I think this citrus is attacking the Furai just to play into that
Oh,
the damage denial line we were just talking about. Yeah, there it is. And I really like that line because like again, this triple drive is a little bit too dangerous to no guard, even though you're only on 3. Like OT is obviously out, but it's still crit lethal. So yeah, I think like you definitely have to guard this and pray that only 1 crit comes down, so that you can then take the crit column and then guard the 1 damage column.
mm-hmm.
But this is still fairly large, right? This is what, 21, 26, 46. That's basically crest numbers right there.
Mm-hmm.
Could also be very, very brave and just no guard the Vanguard swing. You know, say show me 2 crits the game, otherwise I win.
Yep.
That might be a bit too harsh though.
Mm-hmm. We do know that there are quite a bit of triggers out for the prison player, so it is it's a scary but is a fairly safe mathematically take.
Yep. Sanctitude comes down. There's a draw. Second trigger, not a crit. Third trigger needs to be a crit here. Nope. So yeah, that's pretty rough for Prison there. Shiranui can now just no guard both of these swings. And just go up to 5. Give themselves the option to heal down as well. Give themselves counterblast for the Magen Tenbu. We could just swing into the fort and pass.
I do believe that's probably your best bet here if you're trying to desperately survive, because a kill is not available here at all.
Yeah, and attacking Vanguard just gives him the counterblast for Magen Tenbu, which is definitely ends your life.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just gonna. I think it looks like. So this is 28, 48. So the guard restrict from Aqua is not really coming up here because this is already 2 cards to guard. And then he's just going to take down the Ford and just say Oboro check, please.
I will say no other PG is telegraphed here because the Sanctitude was used on the Vanguard instead of the Aqua. Because the Sanctitude does get around the Aqua's guard restrict. So it is nice to be able to save the 1 card Sanctitude for that column.
Oh, we swung at
Oh, good.
Vanguard, interestingly. That could be backbreaking for Prison. Really curious as to what the thought process was. Like, you've seen two Oboros, so surely the third Oboro check would have been the line to take there.
It is very hard to say what would be good here because I'm fairly sure the Prison player is just kind of in a damn it you do, damn it you don't situation, right?
Yeah, like you're 5 into 3. Like the only real way you had a chance of like actually winning was hit like multiple hitting crits there onto the Aquas and putting
Yeah.
like Shuri in a slightly rougher position.
I'll just like maybe finding a way to stack up to 10 in Prison would have definitely helped her, but obviously not available here.
Yeah.
I do think in the damage now case it would be really hard for the newbie player to be able to bail out of Prison too. So if another Pure Light came down, even no, if not even if another Pure Light, because the Royer would be able to imprison one, hit another imprisoner off the top 5.
Especially now
You
that
would be able to.
the ladder's not active, like, and Shuri only has so many resources. Like, they can get down to what 4 prison at a minimum, which then the
Yep.
pure light just sends you back up to 6.
Mhm.
So yeah, sure. Oboro start of right phase there, calling out a pure light. There's the Bleorbis. And again, we know that the prison player does not have access to defensive OT to save their life.
Oh.
But I also don't think it really matters here.
Yep.
It basically needs to be a 6 damage defensive heal. But we're just going to guard it.
Front is nice here, just be able to for the cheap dominate things easily.
So only 1 soul for Shiranui, which they probably want to spend if they have a restander. 1 counterblast that has to go into the Magen Tenbu, so they can't use Genkai. See what kind of field they can make here. I think Sekie would be ideal here if they had it.
That game feels super nice during the mid game just for that extra draw. I do think that that's one of the walls of Shiranui. A lot of their advantage comes from that comes in burst, but being able to use Sekie for some mid game draw, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Definitely my preferred build to go to, just being able to play into that. It is a little harder because Angel Ladder being in the format demands you have to use Esperidia, so it makes it harder to fit in the Sekies and the Soul Chart needed to be able to abuse Sekie really hard because the Mukuro Sekie interaction, which is super interesting, it lets you use the dominated Vanguard to trigger Sekie, so you can use each Sekie gets to draw 2 for that turn.
in exchange for 2 soul each time, which is sometimes difficult, but yeah, can absolutely be worth it.
Yep.
Prison there, choosing Cobra drops a pair of fives to do the second dominate swing. And now we'll see only one Furai's live, but we do see the crit trigger, the
Yep,
insult
sending
crit,
both
so
Furai's are available.
double Furai's live. So this is a 5 attack turn. Defensive OT is not an option. I think we're just watching them go through the motions at this point.
Yep. It's very much under wraps.
So this is going to be 30, 35. Takes it, no heal, and Prison is going to unfortunately lose game one. I mean, I feel like it's not a massive surprise. Like, this is always going to be a rough matchup. Uh, both of them are like late game scaling decks, and Nui just got like that early rush down with the forward and revertis and the early
Yep,
crit.
the Esperidian hand definitely did not make it easier.
Yeah, like especially the Esperidia Shenri column hitting over the hypothetical defensive that never came up. Or
Yep.
it was just going to be like an uphill battle regardless. So Prison now gets to choose whether to go first or second in game two. Is there a world where, as Prison, you choose to go second?
That's a little argument. I haven't played this matchup on the Prison side too much. I do think that just to deny a little bit more card advantage going second is nice because I think it just the hardest thing is being able to stabilize before to go into your pure light. But in any case, your opponent's going to get to go into Magan Tenbu Wands before you get to pure light. So I do think going second here isn't a bad play, especially just to get a little bit more hand to be able to stave off that aggression.
Yeah. Yeah, the only real unfortunate side is that, unlike all the other grade 4 riders, Security Upgrader does not allow you to ride skip going second. I think it's the only one that doesn't say if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3, so it's the only one that is actually turn 4 locked. It says if you did not ride this turn. So going second means that you have to, like, sure, you have to live through an entire stride turn before you can actually start riding into Pure Light, which, without the triple drive from Pure Light every turn, can be a bit difficult. The only benefit you have is that Genkai gives you a body that you're guaranteed to imprison off the board, assuming they don't turn 3 ladder. But I feel it's going to be really, unless you open multiple cuff springs or whatever, or multiple copies of Citrus, it's going to be quite difficult to get to 3 prison going second. Not to mention the fact that it forces you to call an extra body like the Muna or the Life Royha on turn 1 to rest for the prison itself.
Oh, either that or you give up the
Vanguard attack.
Not there's an argument for it sometimes depending on how the hand is, but
yeah,
usually not.
Maybe you just don't want them to immediately forward reverse you. That's kind of defendable.
Yeah, definitely don't think that's the worst play to be able to deny that early counterblast usage to get the pressure out.
But yeah, I would say, as the prison player, I would want to probably try and go second here, just to give myself a little bit of breathing room before they start striding.
For sure. A lot of times when you don't care to go first, usually it's better to just go second and just ride that side just to be able to deny some of that card advantage. Because you don't lose anything going second. If you don't gain anything going first, then yeah, you definitely go second.
The other thing that we haven't touched upon yet in this matchup as well is that the Shiranui engine is so much more lean. Like, you're not needed to play like 4 copies of Tenrei the way that Prison needs to play 4 copies of Muna or Life Roya, which means you don't need to play. Shiranui can only play like 1 or 2 Katari Gitsune instead of like the 4 Cuff Spring or the 4 Security Upgrader. So Shiranui just has more space for stuff like Energy Cyclers, which Prison just does not have room for. Which means that you're more pressured to like see the right pieces at the right time, which when your back's against the wall is already difficult.
Mhm. Prison also just like you really need your rifle warriors to be able to hit live cards, and things like energy cycler just are not live cards off of your rifle warriors. One of Rifle Warrior's strongest attributes is being able to hit an Imprisoner off of the top 5, so that Rifle Warrior is effectively 2 Imprisons per counterblast. But if you're not able to... Ooh, Rifle
Crit
Warrior
PG
call.
security upgrader. Not the best soul charge, but not the worst.
2 Rifle Warriors is a very good position to be in if they're just that early rush we talked about when you see multiple Rifle Warrior.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot harder to justify rushing here on the Nui player side, because giving 2 counterblast means 2 Rifle Warrior activations, which can just be really backbreaking to be on the receiving end of.
Was there an argument there to resting the one behind Vanguard for prison and just pushing up and swinging 8k twice?
Oh, for sure. I definitely. Well, in that case, you would have opened yourself up to opponent swinging into rearguard to damage deny for the the Royer. I think this was a lot safer of a play to avoid that counterplay option of being available. Does guard it instead of taking it here.
The heal is huge, though.
Yep.
So now Prison needs to work just a little bit harder to build that damage lead that it so desperately wants. I think like the main thing that Prison has over Shiranui in this long grindy matchup is that eventually you will get to 10 Prison, and having multiple crit swings is slightly more threatening than having multiple large pokes, especially if Prison is able to guard early like it has done so far.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there is the Esperidium in hand again, which is pretty rough.
Not as relevant here because dealing with it on the turn 3 is a lot easier than dealing with it on the turn 2, but in this case, I do think long games tend to favor Prison more, just because the 5 swings with, like you said, 5 swings with 2 crit matters a lot more than just 5 swings, and that just means like being able to punish low shield hands is so much easier for Prison compared to Shiranui.
Exactly, especially in a deck like Shiranui where they have very few like extra shields, and all of the shield is coming from like their triggers. Especially now that lists are cutting things like Defensing Roar.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are going to see the ride up from Shiranui.
The Urvis that's draw.
The Genkai comes out.
I'm curious to see if they'll commit a Fortune Reverses here, because the Fortune Reverses here does open up the Prison player to be able to swing into rearguard and leave 1 less counterblast open for a Magna Tempo flip, which is relevant for both 1 less attack and that's 1 less G-Zone flip.
Yep. I think we're just going to free the Esperidia from Prison.
Yep.
Which I also like to play as well, because the Soul Blossom and Esperidia means that they're only on 1 soul. So even if Prison had been able to go into Pure Light next turn, which they can't, that's 1 less soul for Pure Light to rip out, which is pretty huge.
Yep.
Although arguably, given that Prison can't rip out the soul in this coming turn, there's an argument for just trying to commit the Shenris now. Oh, the Shenri's not live, I guess, because of the second Life Royale.
Yep. I think that was a good reason to call that second Rifle Royer too, just to deny Shenryu without an order.
Ooh, no booster, so defensive punishes here. Nope. 1 more chance. 13k twin drive. 2 to pass. And doesn't break through, but these still do hit.
That is a very strong defensive heal. Very good there, right there, yep.
Just reading land there, I had the Shiranui player's board flipped on screen. We'll fix that now. But yeah, Shiranui just managing to rip quite a few cards out of the Prison player's hand despite the defensive. So Prison is only like, what, it looks like 6 cards going into the grade 3 turn.
Yeah.
And being unable to security upgrade it here is also really rough.
Not being able to moon it here is also very hard. Energy Blast 7 to draw.
So there's the Aqua. That's Prison's 1 from drop. And yeah, we're gonna use Life Roya instead of Pure Light just to dig for pieces and build a board. Probably want to try and find like the Mooner here.
Luna is definitely the biggest thing here, just for some card advantage.
Upgrade is also not bad. You can
It's a little
probably.
hard
Hmm?
because just having your pieces on board instead of in hand just means like it opens up the new player to be able to dominate it for the retire, or swing into it with the dominate to be able to attack into it and also retire
Yeah,
it that way.
yeah, that is the risk. But I think in this situation, Prison puts forward enough other threatening cards like the Aquas or the Citrus to like. I think it's very rare that you'll ever end up dominating or like attacking into the security upgrader. I think that's a safe risk to take.
Yeah, especially when you have like three like so many high priority things, being able to throw out an upgrader just at worst upgrader being bait to protect your other stuff isn't too bad. Yeah.
The second Aquas comes down, which is pretty solid.
Yep, being able to have that 3 imprisonment for the 3 drive without needing to use the pure light or the Seraph Snow counterblast is really nice here. It's for card advantage wise. Typically, do you want to put your counterblast into Warriors instead because that's a +1 instead of a +0?
And again, I just feel like a one damage, triple drive. There's arguments for Shiranui to just take this damage here. Just no guard, go up to 3, and then just be off to the races with Magen Tenbus and Ford and Revertis. Although Shiranui hasn't seen that many pieces either. Like, we haven't seen any Shenris or the like come down at all.
Mhm.
So it could just be that their hand is like full of combo pieces they're trying to hold on to. There's a crit.
The Muna does come a little late, but better late than never. Especially in a game like this where like both players are at quite low damage here. That we can, there's a reasonable expectation that this defensive OT.
It's not ideal. Like, you do lose out on 2 attacks, but it's definitely better than them hitting it offensively and like resetting your power and progress.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the defensive here isn't too bad because there is a very very appetizing rearguard swing target into the Esperidia, so I don't think that's too
Yes.
bad here. Like I always say, better the OT's out earlier than you don't know where it is at all, right?
And the question is Kai going to be incentivized to defend that Esperidia somehow? Nope, they're just going to let it go. This, all right.
Yep. Having to guard 2 Aquas, which both have Battle Door in this case, and 2 a rearguard swing is definitely not the best for your hand size,
Yeah.
and doesn't really make use of that defensive overtrigger too strongly.
So it's going to be interesting to see how Shinrei approaches this turn. Like, both players are on very low damage, which is exactly where Prison wants to be. And Shinrei
Yeah,
definitely wants to push like 2 or 3 damage this turn if possible. But as we know, the first strike isn't like the most threatening thing in the world.
especially at low damage, being able to take the little pokes definitely a lot easier, especially without Genkai on board right now, so you can't get the plus 10k. The first stride is definitely at its scariest about like the opponents at 3 or 4. You have two Furais, you're able to use Genkai once or twice. That's mostly when the Shiryu player is able to like really just burst down on the first stride there. In
Yeah.
a case like this, yeah, definitely that's definitely out of the question here.
The Obro beginning of Ride Phase calling out the Pure Light just to retire one of the back rows is still pretty solid and effective.
Mhm.
But like with 2 open Counterblast, there's actually a world I think, where Shiranui Counterblast 1 to free out the Genkai and the Sekie from prison, and then Counterblast 1 for Magen Tenbu. Like, doesn't even need to Counterblast for the Genkai, just has it on as a body. It's still fairly effective. They just conserve cards in hand.
Flavors would be a better call here because that'd be a retire 1, which being able to pop that security upgrader is just really nice. Because the versus on place does work while your Vanguard is great for being
Yeah,
by a
right.
stride.
Yeah, I just keep forgetting that Bleobus is not like those cyclers aren't on place from hand.
Mhm.
Because everything
Yeah.
else basically is in this current day and age. But yeah, like Bleobus as well hits numbers, gets rid of the security upgrader, could be solid. I just was thinking like calling out the Genkai now forces the prison player to have to like re-imprison it somehow later on, and if they don't re-imprison it, it's just sitting. The Genkai can then sit there on the board. Oh, there's the ladder.
Angel ladder comes down. That's very difficult. Yeah.
So now maybe Genkai definitely comes out because you know it's going to survive next turn, and then you have the
Yep.
Genkai ready for your Mukuro turn to just start wreaking havoc.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
soul
I
from
think
ladder also lets them fully free all their pieces from soul, which is huge.
yeah. Angel Ladder definitely puts Prison in a really hard spot here, just because that just makes their pure light turn first pure light turn just apply so much less pressure than it would otherwise.
So we're going to counterblast for Genkai there. Defensive
Oh,
OT comes right back for Prison. That's you love to see it. This is the breathing room they needed. Suddenly the pressure is off. So all that'll
actually
happen
does get
now,
active. Actually,
yes,
it again does get activated here, which is interesting.
yeah. All Shiranui basically does here is just draw 3 cards, which is I think they're okay with.
I do think the defensive OT being checked there instead of during the battle phase, where they know like now here they don't need to commit any pieces to pressure now, since they know it's going to be meaningless, right?
Yeah,
They're going to be thinking forward to like maybe use the Angel Ladder to call the Bleeder Vis, pop the Security Upgrader.
and yeah, empty their soul to deny the pure light. That is pretty solid.
Yeah, you just like this is the power of information, right? Just like this is why I think that like a lot of sequencing to like maximize your output is really strong, but also sequencing to deny known information is also really strong. That's why I tend to usually, in most cases, try to swing with my Vanguard last so that those triggers are not known until later. I think
Yeah.
that's a very underrated way of going about things. I do think he's thinking about. I do think they're thinking about the Blearvis out of prison.
The only concern is that if they empty their soul now, can they rebuild a soul to be able to have restanders next turn? Because again, we haven't seen any Shenris, and having used up the ladder now means that any future Shenris will definitely not be active.
Yep. You do see to soul crit and dropped. That's also one to soul crit that's not available right now. So we
Yeah.
will see what. Yeah. I do think with how the war state is right now, prison player is definitely in a position where they can try to just take the game long and bank on their 2 crit multi attacks being able to get there. Like the Angel Ladder is definitely brutal, but because damage is so low, like the game is expected to go longer. Like in the game before, like Angel Ladder being active for 100% of pure light turns compared to being active on like maybe half or 1/3 of your pure light turns, definitely a lot big of a difference.
Yeah. So the Bleorvis there is being freed out. They are going to empty soul, pop the security upgrader. And the other thing I like about the Bleorvis being called is that if Shiranui hadn't made a second attacker here, they go Vanguard into rearguard. Prison has the ability to just guard it and just keep the Aquas for next turn, whereas now they're incentivized to let it go, because if they try and guard it, they have to then guard the Bleorvis attack with the Genkai boost.
Yep.
And yeah, suddenly the
Yep.
board is gone. With only one counter loss, so the OT, they're actually kind of hurting Prison, because now they want to spend their counterblast on the Life Roya to rebuild, but then that means they won't have counterblast to multi-attack with.
Mm-hmm. If they are able to get to 3 prisons somehow, I do think triple drive into the Blear here is a really sweet play here. I think just because like I said, like being able to deny the counter blast means that no Magan Tenbu, no soul right now, or like at least it'd be hard to get soul, especially with like there's no main deck. Usual Nui lists besides the Angel Ladder don't have main deck soul generation too, so it would also mean that they don't get that second dominate with the Oboro with the Mukuro either.
Yeah.
Her light does come down.
Yeah, I mean, like this entire turn, like I think if they are able to damage Naikai throughout this turn, like the strength of this particular, we saw it in the last game as I was talking with Sagren. The strength of an Oboro check at times can be like backbreaking. Like if like if you tell Shiranui like stride Oboro or else, and they don't stride Oboro, could be the tempo that you need to like stay in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pure Light will push them up to 4 prison, no 6 prison, because that crit is the one that came in from Security Upgrader.
Angel Ladder stops the 2 from board, and there's no soul, so it
Right.
only
Yes. It
4.
actually only goes up to 4. which is not ideal. But again, I think like as you say, Prison definitely wants this to go a bit longer. Arguably, Prison doesn't want to actually commit anything. They might just like counterblast one for Life Royale, see what they can get, and just go for like a cheeky like poke here and there.
Yeah, I think either they can swing at Vanguard to like threaten going to 4, because going to 4 is super difficult against
Yeah,
Prison here.
because then everything becomes lethal once you get the board crit. But I mean, like Shiranui's hand is still very
Very big.
chunky. Yeah, so
I counted 10 now after the move. I believe it's 10.
I mean that's still a lot. Like that's still room to like guard the Vanguard swing and then eat one of the rear guard swings.
Yep. I do think if the manga gets guarded, I think it would be a good idea for a Prison player to just not give any more counterblast, just to make both Mago and Tenbu and Mukuro a lot less appealing. So just striding just gets very weak comparatively. Shinoi's burst advantage, like I've said, is very good, but like its sustained advantage is quite weak comparatively. So being able to just like, if the game goes long, like they're not gonna get more resources if the game goes long. They're mostly stuck with what they have and what they dry check.
Yeah.
So I think being able to like just like punting a turn here, I think is a good play on the Prison player's part, or like they have the freedom to make that play, and I think it would be a smart one. Triple drive, refill their hand up to 3. Ooh, Taser
Hazel
Lake.
Age is actually now pretty. You'd think that Hazel Age doesn't come up massively in this matchup, but it actually really does because you know, Shiranui is like doesn't have that many resources to play with, so they're not free much from Prison. So anything that they do free from Prison is probably like being free because it's important, like say in this situation, the Sekie or the Shenri. So being able to deny those basically forces Shiranui to have the extra bodies in hand to make and pressure the board with. And we've said that their hand is very large and chunky and healthy, but if they're having to guard and refill a board at the same time, while you only have to guard because you're making your board off of the Life Royale, then that is, you are slowly winning that war of attrition over time.
I do think the very Taser Lake I think is very relevant because it can rest the. We do see that the to soul crit got imprisoned there, so being able to deny that soul generation also is also super important.
So that the Taser Age column is 21, 31, yeah, 31 and 20 on the cuff spring. So not massive numbers, but yeah, I think you're like you're saying, like
It
threaten
should be
to
36 because of the rifle against 5K as well, I
right. You're
believe.
right. Yeah, crit is
Citrus.
nice. So crit to Van, power to the cuff spring. Second crit, pushing Trinity up to
Ooh.
5. On one hand, you don't want to give them all that damage to play with. Heal is live, so they'll be on 4. But on the other
Still,
hand,
that's still very good. Being able to be keeping them at 4 is very nice. Yeah.
yeah, you're still threatening lethal. Oh, that is second heal also live. That is rough. So and then the third damage. So you've only dealt 1 damage overall, and they've just gotten 2 fresh counter blasts to play with, which
Yeah.
means there's a good chance they might just dump their prison here. The double defensives also make these suddenly way easier to guard. So does Cuff Spring now go into the Blue Orbis? I think you
Yep.
still. Oh, it
Oh
has
no,
to. Yeah.
it has got the trigger, so it's 40.
Right. Okay. So it can still hit the Vanguard. And I think you do want to hit. Oh no, we're just going into rear. Interesting. I feel like you just want to have gone to Vanguard to either force the 10k shield or put them on that lethal threshold.
Yeah, especially when like they probably likely would have called over the Blearvis anyways, because 3 counter blast means that they can gank type pretty freely. So they just call a multi attacker in the front row.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of an odd choice.
So yeah, 10 card hand, lots of options. Magen Tenbu is now open as well, which is makes it rough. So we are going to see Magen Tenbu.
Yep.
Not forgetting to use Oboro. Doesn't need to call anything because it wouldn't be a retire. There's already a grade 2. There's already a Taser Age on the board to whack.
Yep.
The other huge thing about the heal there as well is that having the extra counterblast for the Genkai also means that on the off chance, if Prison wants to play it risky here, they might take 1 or 2 damage and like bank on the defensive. But now Genkai can help Shunui breach that defensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The defensive does not come in.
2 Furais are here. It might be a little hard for the Nui player to finish, but yeah. Nui players are definitely on way less pressure to kill on this turn specifically because of those 2 heals. Definitely hard. It's definitely going to be hard for the player to find an out for this one.
Of course, Shunui still doesn't have any soul, so Furai's wouldn't be live. So it's unless they found a crit, unless they found another crit, soul crit from their hand.
They're 1 in prison. They can get 1 multi-attacker.
Yeah, but then you have to bank on like that being rested with the Taser Age.
I believe Totally dominated, so yeah, Totally will
Okay.
get retired. That's not a player, not in the contention anymore.
Yeah, and did we Genk? I think we Genkai'd there, right? That's why the second counterblast is face down.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
We can fight on the second one, yeah.
Okay. Which means that they can spend their last counterblast on crit and Sekie, which would be pretty solid.
Yep, so they do have 4 attacks at the very minimum.
And again, this is what I was saying about how
like
their hand is huge, and by freeing from prison, they get to maintain that massive hand purely for guarding with. And even the argument is like, sure, that hand is going to be full of like Ford and Revertis, Furais, Tenreis, Shenris, just a bunch of 5Ks, but 4 or 5 5Ks adds up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually going to go for Shenri crit here instead of the Sekie.
Probably. I do think this telegraphs a Furai from hand.
Is the Sekie not better though? Because you get an extra draw.
I do think we're going for long, but like if you're just trying to pressure here, I think yeah. I think either one is alright. Let's see what happens.
I think the big argument to put out the Sekie is that it's another card out of prison, which is going to be harder for Ben to get back up to 10. And also, like if you call out the Furai from hand here naturally, you're gaining 2 soul and using 1. You'll be left with 1 soul at the end of turn, with which your opponent can then Pure Light into prison, which is going to be rough.
Ooh, retires here. Okay, that turns
on
like Shenri. That makes a big difference. Okay.
Yes.
It might be a double multi-attack turn here then.
There's the 1 Furai, and yeah, we are indeed gonna. Yep. There's the second. So suddenly it went from okay, we can maybe Cobra there goes from okay, we can maybe grind this out to oh, I might die now. Because yeah, we saw it being on the turn. They only Cobra only started this turn with 6 cards in hand, and we just saw one of them being used to guard one of the dominate swings.
And then 1 draw for the Muna, so it's still 7, but still 7 into a 5 attacks turn without any defensive yet is going to be very, very scary.
I think we haven't seen Sanctitude come out for Cobra yet though, so that is an option to him. So and he can afford to take 2 of these large-ish Furai swings. So I'd say probably taking this, because like any defensives here would also be really, really great. Ooh. Oh, yeah, there's Violet.
Yeah,
basically a PG.
Very, very cool here. Yeah, definitely makes things a lot easier to survive here. Being able to 1 card the very large rear guards here.
I mean, if he has a second one, that'd be ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being able to guard these like bigger rear guard swings, because the dominate swings the first swings afterwards won't have that boost. So if taking the Vanguard and if a defensive is checked there, that makes the 35 I believe it's 35. Yeah. So if a defensive is checked, the 35s become. Ooh, that's a big
Wow.
heal.
All right, surviving is now within on the cards when it's not
Yeah.
all over yet.
Yep. Those food rights become one card blocks with 15k shields. So Vanguard gets taken here. Ooh, GG here instead. Okay.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't want to take the risk, which is understandable. Like I think
Yeah.
Prison's only like Shirano's only seen like 2 crits maybe.
Yeah, just a one crit and drop, I believe.
There's one of them.
That is also another soul for next turn. So even if at 0 soul, that means soul can be regained for a restander next turn if it's conserved. Right, so one can be guarded for 1 card, the other is 2 cards but also 2 crit. See what they decide to take. I definitely think they can't afford to block both here because they need some hand to be able to get up to aim for 10 in prison next turn. But
Yeah,
I think with I think there was a citrus in hand, so what's the citrus in hand?
yeah. I think like it's
That
fine to take this. Sorry, guard the crit and then take the 1,
Mhm.
which we see them doing. And now
Now
hopefully we find either another the ability to ride Pure Light or a security upgrader would be really ideal
yeah,
here.
we did see a pure light get described for PG, so that telegraphs that there is probably a pure light or a security upgrader in hand. Yep,
There it
there we have it.
is.
This guarantees 8. So if there's 2, and then there's a citrus in hand, so that'll go up to 9. So if there's one more way to get into prison, that puts them up to 10. And
Yeah,
at 10, killing from 3 is very possible from 10,
exactly.
with the
I
even with
mean,
such a large hand there.
we've seen 2 Cuff Springs and 2 Life Royals and 2 Aurora Aquas. So I'm not sure how much else they have.
Mhm.
I mean, in an ideal world here, I kind of want to see Cobra just like after this resolves, just slam down 2 Citrus.
Yeah, two citrus might very much might do it.
Like even though Kai has that very very healthy hand there, like when you're swinging for like was it 35 with a crit 4 times, that does add up. There's only so many PGs you can throw.
Yeah, especially when you can only take one of the 5. Well, one ideally of the 5 if a second citrus is seen.
Luna's never. Having another booster is always good. Can
Yep.
we get to 9? No, can we get to 10? We're on 9. Oh,
Does
what?
not seem like it if this is if they're hesitating this much.
It doesn't look good, does it? Oh, I think we're just going to attack. Yeah, only 3 attacks, so significant decrease on the threat pressure. I feel like there was maybe an argument there to just pushing the other Mooner in the front row instead of the back row just to get the 4 attacks.
Yeah, it's either that or just like take another sandbag turn, swing the triple drive into the Furai, deny resources to be able to bail out of prison.
Yeah, because we still haven't seen another Oboro come down for Kai here. Like,
Yeah,
at least not
Oboro
in
is
the
also
drive
not
checks.
available. Yeah, Oboro is also just not available. Period, because
No soul,
no
right?
soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if no counterblast, that means no counterblast. That means you can't use Magnum Tenbu either. So it's just very very weird situation to be in. I think there was definitely an argument to swing into rear guard, see what happens there.
Yeah. Because, like, the Vanguard was always going to have inherent crit pressure anyway. So I feel like rear into rear was a good first shot. Draw trigger's nice. You draw out the PG here. Unless you find a crit here, which we do. I was going to say, unless
Crit is very big. Yep.
without the crit, there's no lethal pressure. But now we have the crit. Now we have lethal pressure coming in. So this, and the heal as well on top, a live heal.
That's very good triggers there.
This is
Now this for the support of the
ideal.
Guardian and the newbie player being only accessible to one counterblast here is definitely also very big. That counterblast can't be used to spend on bailing
Freeing
out
anything from
because it
prison
can have to
has to
be,
be a
yeah,
Mag and Tenbu counterblast.
yeah.
Yeah. So very much stuck between a rock and a hard place here. But again, if and again with no soul, we know that there's the soul crit. So Nui has access to a fourth attack if they have, like, say, Esperidia and call out the crit, provided they don't use the crit to guard. But it is
Yep.
now like, look, it's now suddenly uphill. Like the heal from 4 to 3 means that Prison, like, it's more so that Prison can now is more likely to see their next turn, and that next turn is now much more likely to be lethal for Shiranui.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know the 3 triggers make it a little weird, but three in hand and then a draw trigger definitely means that like that does telegraph that like 10 in prison isn't on the table, so that means like it's very likely guard value
Yeah,
because prison's deck is composed of nothing but guard value and then prison pieces.
yeah.
So it's definitely this is super survivable right now. So it all depends on whether that draw trigger and the blind draw for next turn, if either of those are ways to imprison or ways to or like security. If maybe the remainder in hand was security upgrader, I think yeah, definitely. If it's survivable, I think it's prison's game if they can survive this next turn.
We're gonna call out the Pure Light from drop with Oboro just as a body to attack with. Are we getting a top deck Mukuro? I think we're thinking about ditching 2 for Stride, which is going to be rough in and of itself.
Not too bad with the Waldorn and drop, yeah. Because this is like one of the biggest things why that grade 1 cycle is super strong for Stride decks. You're able to discard 2 for Stride and then refund your piece that you had to discard. So it just makes it also just motivates you to be a lot more slim on grade 3s because you're just never as punished for having to discard 2 for Stride late game because you're just gonna get a piece back with the grade 1 cycler.
Yeah. Man, went from 3 cards in hand to 7 cards in hand, but that's only like what, 8, 9 cards in deck? So Shiranui could also just be playing the deck out game here, which would also be enough. There is the Oboro, so we do see Mukuro coming down, but as you say, no soul. So we might just see Oboro being discarded to Stride Magentendu.
If the Nui player is playing some main deck solo generation like Kagachika, it's definitely doable. I know I definitely run one copy of Kagachika for these situations, but we'll see.
It's very rare that games ever get to this point, but the other thing to consider as well now is that if Shiranui wants to stride into the Magentenbu, then they'll only have 1 stride left to go into. Like, so they'll lose a lot of that, triple drive pressure they would otherwise be threatening.
Yeah.
It's a tough decision for sure.
Yeah,
Again,
I think there's also an argument just stride into anything just for the dominate trigger to happen. Don't use the skill of the Vanguard, but just use the counterblast to be able to call 2 from prison because that's a crit in Sekie. That's
yes.
that adds at least 1 soul for a multi attack and then a draw 1 if they use it on the Sekie.
Well, there's the Furai still on board as well, so we know that there's the other crit, soul crit in hand. So we could just still go for a 5 attack turn here with the pressure. So yeah, we're just gonna go into the Mukuro and on stride dominate.
If all the pieces are in hand, I do think that just not bailing out at all to deny the Munas, if you're trying to go for game here, I think is also smart. There's a lot of ways you can. There's a lot of ways you can
Are we actually seeing
arrange.
the dominate attack the Munas? Maybe.
Possibly.
I think that would not be. Yeah, that would not be awful because now you can counterblast 1 to free from prison, and then they only get to draw 1 instead of 2, which is, and then you're just pushing and hoping that the 5 attacks with crest pressure gets you there. I think that's also a reasonable line.
And if there's soul in hand, that's also really big. If there is soul in hand, because then you can use it on the Mukro, and then the Mukro Vanguard attack's gonna swing in a Muna too for even more.
I think I see a forward revertis. So yes, we are about to see. Yeah.
There we go. Yes, that is 1 more main phase soul.
Don't even need to counterblast a forward revertis. Save it for freeing from prison. Just go straight into the Mukuro. In fact, there's even an argument here to having Mukuro and the Vanguard attack the Muna just so that you can then freely go from prison without like any worries.
Yep. That's exactly how I would go for it. I would go for the front Citrus into Vanguard, Vanguard into Mana.
Oh wow! Like even with that amazing turn from Cobra, Kai here is just able to like dig into that reservoir and just pull out everything they needed. Which I think like is not really surprising given they spent almost the entire game on like 10 plus cards in hand.
Yeah, this is just the strength of Shinui, just like what it's able to do is just incredibly powerful.
Yeah. It's like you say, the difference between having like burst advantage versus sustained advantage. If your burst advantage is big enough and you're not using like you don't have to use a little bit over the course of however long, that is in and of itself a way of sustaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like just in like what really underrated thing is just like being able to like the amount of pressure that the new player has been able to put out all game with very minimal hand investment is just very impressive. I think that's like gonna be one of the big things that like if Night Rose when it releases, if it's good, I think it's gonna be because it just never has to commit from hand.
Yep. And he gets the
Oh,
triple drive
triple drive
because
because
it's pure light. Oh,
yeah,
that crit coming in at just the right time as well.
big crit check too here. Yeah, that Furai is gonna be really painful to guard. Swing set the citrus instead of the Muna is interesting. But I think that's not. If you want to make sure they can't 4 or 5 swing next turn, I think that's also very reasonable.
And then we know that there's the soul crit in hand to give the soul for the Furai. Can we get the soul for the Esperidia? And I think I see a Ford Revertis there, so I think the answer is yes. But Shiranui, Kai is on what? 7 cards in deck? Which might even be less than Cobra's, so the deck
Yep,
out
Cobra
the
was
deck out
at
threat
9, I
is
believe.
yes, the deck out threat is very real. Which means that if they're gonna go for it, this has to be lethal, otherwise they will just die to deck out.
Yep.
Oh, this is really close. So the Furai is currently 25, 35, 55 with a crit on its own. That already, I think, is basically like PG to guard.
Mm-hmm.
You can afford to take one of those 2 crit swings, but then you go from 9 cards in deck to 7 cards in deck, which means you're now losing the deck out race.
Yeah. I do. If Dairy Violet's in hand, the big Rearguard isn't too big of a deal, but that's if Dairy Violet is in hand, which I said earlier. Like some
Yeah,
extra guard value is telegraphed by those three cards being held instead of going up to 10 in prison, but we'll have to see.
there's the
Shenri
Shenri,
comes down
which
in
is
7.
live because there's only one Rearguard on the board. So yeah, we are going to see 5 attacks this turn.
Yep.
So 58, no 53 from the Furai, and then
30,
51 from the Esperidia. So they're basically the same number.
20, 20, 30. Yep. Actually, is it? 10, 20, 40, 55. That number is 59, I believe.
On the Esperidia column.
The Furai column, because that gains another 5k because 3 dominates have happened this turn.
Right, yes. Yes. 3 triggers come down.
Then 2k from the crit, that makes that column 15, 15, 35, 48.
Oh yeah, the 2K actually makes a difference for magic numbers here. And that's amazing. We're gonna get the soul and then the Vanguard swing. I think you have to no guard this, right? Because you need to guard that crit for Furai.
Yep.
Oh, there's the Sanctitude.
Magnitude comes down.
Nicely timed.
That does telegraph that Dairy Violet's in rough crit.
So you're basically hoping that crit not onto the Esperidia here then. Oh, I think that was first check crit. So now you need to heal out of the Esperidia and Violet onto the Furai, which is now that's suddenly asking for a lot. Oh, this was so. I think if that crit hadn't come down, then Prison might have been able to survive this.
Yeah.
Or I think he might also just be out of heals, so this might just be super lethal. There's two PGs and Sanctitude, so it could be Violet and PG. That would get him there.
Mm-hmm. Violet and PG, but then I'm not sure he'd be able to, unless like
He top decks
top
the
deck draws
last,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so this is 15, 25, 45. We're just going to take it. Oh, there's the heal, but is it live? It is live!
It is live, yes!
Oh my god, yes! And crit, wow. So that puts him up to 33, which versus 55. And he has the Violet!
Nice.
Oh man. This is definitely on the wire, but I think he's only down to like 5 cards in deck now, so draw for turn. He needs to find a way to rewrite the one more Pure Light to get to 10 Prison, but then he only has 2 attacks with the crit, which might not be enough to break through Shinobu's hand.
It can be just the one Imprisoner from hand, that'll push him up to 10, and then if that's a multi-attacker, that's just even huger. If one of those 2 in hand is an Imprisoner, then that's 5 attack. That's 3 attack minimum, yeah. So we'll have to see what happens.
4 cards versus 3 cards. Neither player can attack well. Cobra has 1 more attack with the Vanguard, but then he risks losing immediately if he doesn't win on that turn.
Unfortunately, Nui player does have a scaling, so he probably wins.
Yeah, the rear guards are winning that battle, which is unfortunate.
Prison player does with the swing Vanguard here.
Unless the last imprison in his hand is prison from the board.
Counted.
If he can if he can prison from the board, this would be it. He just needs to be able to get those attackers off the board.
No, I think there might be draws in deck.
Oh, it's a trigger and a Muna. Oh, he was so close. He's 3 draws.
Oh, okay, no, there's no more draws. There's no more draws in deck, I don't think.
I think we're just getting an overall trigger count now. Oh, missing that 10th in prison for the crit to board. That is definitely brutal. So close. I think they're all out of triggers. I don't know if we counted that properly. I wasn't paying super close attention. But yeah, this is guardable. We're just gonna go for it. I mean, I think Shonu's out of PGs as well, right?
They should be. Yeah, they used one early and threw a lot of them.
This is 21, 31. It's just 41. Considering how chunky that hand is, that should be doable. So 41 on the Vanguard column, 28 on Muna, and 24 on the draw trigger. So yeah, that is. So heal plus 2 grade 1s is enough for the draw. And yeah, they're just going to throw everything else in their hand to guard this. 3 blanks. Yeah, those citruses came in just way too late. And Shunui just passes turn. Whoa, what a close game. That was... I would call that cinema.
Yeah.
That was a really close game. Well played, like, super well played from both players. I think, yeah, like, seeing those 2 citruses at the bottom of the deck there, I think if Prison had just seen those just a little bit sooner, like maybe on the turn before, that would have been enough to get to 10 Prison and the 5th attack and the whole shebang. Whether or not that would have punched through Shunui's hand is another question, but it was definitely within range. That's such a shame.
Yeah, Prison just needed a little more.
Really hard. But yeah, that is going to be the end of that. So with that pushes up Owl Coop to 3-1 lead against Dinobozos. So really close to taking the championship now, but there's still a few more games to play. But that's going to be it for today for Game 4 of the VPL Finals. Thanks once again to Chang for joining me on this. Yeah, absolutely. Especially that game too. That was such a fun game to watch and commentate. Really glad we got to see that. But yeah, that is going to be it from us for now. As always, VPL is going to be done for this season, but we are going to start up again next season. But until then, you're more than welcome to hang out in the atmosphere, chat to people about that. And yeah, we've got a few more games coming up, so stay tuned. Until then, I will see you all on Yellow Card TCG. Have a lovely day. Take care. Peace out.
Thanks for having me. Peace out.